Flip-hand phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
This is Jermaine Johnson. He was just taken in the first round by the New York Jets in the 2022 NFL Draft. He came off a strong 2021 campaign with Florida State, in which he was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year and a first-team All-ACC member. And he is the first ever player from the Last Chance U series that has been taken in the first round of the NFL Draft. In today's video, I am going to be talking about his football journey to where he is today. Before I move on with the video, guys, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, as we are very close to 10K. Now, let's get into it. Jermaine Johnson attended Eden Prairie High School in Minnesota, in which he was a standout on the football field. He was even an All-Metro player in his senior campaign, in which he recorded 37 tackles and 7 sacks. When talking about Jermaine Johnson and how he was compared to other players in the state of Minnesota coming out of the 2017 recruiting class, he was seen as a top player in that state, and everybody knew it. Talking about his recruiting ranking with the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings, he was not the most highly regarded recruit. He was a low 3-star, ranked as the 2089th best player in the nation and the 105th best player in his position, but he was the number 11 player in the state of Minnesota. Now, his ranking would have been a lot better if he was actually able to get D1 offers, but he had 0 D1 offers coming out of high school, and that was primarily because of his grades. He had a 1.9 GPA, and he was academically ineligible to play NCAA Division I football. Originally, for his college football career, post-high school football, he was going to sit out the first semester, then go to a D1 school of his choice and have his scholarship after sitting out that first semester. And that's what he was originally going to do. He had D1 interests, but that was his only choice because of his grades, besides JUCO football. But he would eventually decide to go to Independence Community College and test out the JUCO waters. When Jermaine Johnson was at Independence Community College, he was featured on Last Chance U, the Netflix series, in Season 3 and Season 4. In his first year at Independence Community College, in the 2017 college football season, he would break out on the scene, and he would have an amazing season. As in 11 games played, he had 58 total tackles, 8 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. He was a big part of that Independence defense, and he made it known game in and game out. And because of this great season that Jermaine Johnson had in 2017, and knowing how big he is, he stood in at 6'5", almost 250 pounds coming off the D-line, with his film, stats, everything that he brought with him in his game, the potential with it, he was seen as the #1 player in JUCO football heading into his final year at Independence Community College. When talking about his final season at Independence Community College, in the 2018 college football season, Jermaine Johnson wouldn't have as great of a season as he did in 2017, but he would play in 2 less games. In the 2018 campaign, he had 38 total tackles, 4.5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. He would finish his career at Independence in 20 games played with 96 total tackles, 12.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles, and 4 fumble recoveries. Overall, a great career. When talking about his recruiting process in JUCO, of course, being the #1 ranked player in your class for JUCO, you're going to be looked at by some of the top schools in the nation, as he had 22 total D1 offers from schools such as Georgia, Colorado, Oregon, Arizona State, Miami, OU, Nebraska, Texas, Texas A&M, and USC, just to name a few. When it came down to make a decision, he would end up going to Georgia. In his first year at Georgia in 2019, he would appear in all 14 games for the Bulldogs, starting in one of them. In those 14 games played, he had 20 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 1 pass deflection, and 1 forced fumble. He was expected to have a little bit more of an impact in 2020, but there would be less games played in the 2020 season, and in 2020 played in 10 games, starting in 3 of them, in which he had 16 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 1 pass deflection. Overall, a pretty solid season. But after the 2020 campaign, Jermaine Johnson would end up entering the transfer portal for a better opportunity. What I mean by that is that Jermaine Johnson, people viewed him as someone that would make it to the NFL, and everyone knew he had the size, the intangibles, and the potential to do it. But he needed a big opportunity to do that, and at Georgia, it wasn't guaranteed that he was going to be that dude. So he entered the portal and would end up transferring to Florida State, and at Florida State, he would be that guy. When people were talking about Jermaine Johnson heading into the 2021 campaign, everyone heard that he had a great offseason with the Seminoles and that he was bound to have a breakout season. And people were predicting him to have that, as if he was someone that was going to break out, he had a real shot to be a first-round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. And he did not disappoint in his one season with the Seminoles, as in 12 games played, he had 70 total tackles, 17.5 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks, 2 pass deflections, 1 fumble recovery, 1 touchdown, and 2 forced fumbles. It wasn't even just that. As I said earlier in the beginning of the video, Jermaine Johnson was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year and a first-team All-ACC member. After the one season at Florida State in 2021, it was time for Jermaine Johnson to go to the NFL Draft, as his college football career was officially over. In his college career, he totaled 106 total tackles, 24.5 tackles for loss, 18 sacks, 1 touchdown, 1 fumble recovery, and 3 total forced fumbles. Going into the 2022 NFL Draft, Jermaine Johnson was seen as one of the best defensive linemen in this draft, and he was seen as someone that was more than likely going to be a first-round pick, and if he slipped out of the first round, he was going to be a very early second-round pick. When draft night officially came for the 2022 NFL Draft, Jermaine Johnson would hear his name called in the first round, 26th overall pick, by the New York Jets. Since he was taken in the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft, Jermaine Johnson became the first ever player from Last Chance U to be selected in the first round of the NFL Draft. Well guys, if you made it this far in the video, drop something down in the comment section below if you want to see videos like this in the future, and how do you think Jermaine Johnson is going to pan out in the NFL? Before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.